You've been performing strength your whole life. And something beneath the surface has been running everything. Every time you explained yourself to someone who was never going to understand you. Every time you stayed calm on the outside while something was eating you alive on the inside. Every time someone called you wise, called you strong, called you mature, and deep down you wondered if wise is just what they say when someone learned pain early. You didn't develop discipline. You developed a mask. And that mask has been running your life. Drop this in the comments right now. I am ready to see myself clearly. Here's what nobody tells you about power. Most people spend their whole life performing strength, reacting, defending, explaining, proving. While something beneath the surface runs everything. Their patterns, their relationships, their self-destruction. And they never once look down. They think they're in control, they're not. Something else is driving, and they built their whole life not knowing it. Machiavelli gave the world a manual on how to control others, and for 500 years people treated it like the Bible of power. But Machiavelli never looked inward. He never asked the one question that actually determines whether you rise or collapse. What's controlling you? Carl Jung spent his entire life answering that question, and what he found destroys everything you thought you knew about strength, discipline, and who you really are. He called it the shadow, and it is silently running your relationships, your decisions, your self-sabotage, everything. Here are Jung's 7 laws of the shadow. By the end, you'll understand why the most powerful people alive are also the most dangerous to themselves, and exactly how to stop being one of them. You'll discover by Law 5 exactly what you've been searching for your entire life, without knowing it. And Law 7, the law of words, will show you how the language you use every single day is either building your power or quietly destroying it.
The shadow is not your darkness. It's your buried self. Most people think the shadow is the evil part of them, the anger, the jealousy, the dark thoughts they pretend don't exist. Wrong. The shadow is everything you decided wasn't acceptable. Every emotion that got punished. Every part of your personality that didn't survive childhood, didn't fit the family, didn't pass the social filter. You buried it. You called it growth. You called it maturity. You called it becoming untouchable. And the moment you name it, people will feel the shift in you before you say a single word. But here's the law. What you exile doesn't leave. It organizes. It waits. It recruits. It finds the crack, exhaustion, stress, intimacy, and it comes out sideways, disproportionate, uncontrollable, in ways you later explain away and never fully understand. That explosion that came out of nowhere. That relationship you burned down without knowing why. That pattern you keep repeating no matter how much you swear you've changed. That's not weakness. That's your shadow, organized, patient, and running the show while you stand on stage thinking you're untouchable. While they keep burying what they feel, you're going to name it. And naming it is where real power begins. Drop this in the comments. I see what I've buried. You know the person who enrages you most, the one you can't stop talking about, the one whose behavior makes your blood boil while everyone else seems completely unbothered. Jung's 2nd law, that rage is a map, because whatever you cannot tolerate in someone else almost always lives in your own shadow. The person who explodes at dishonesty, usually lying to themselves about something foundational. The person who can't stand arrogance, usually defending against their own need to feel superior. The person who calls everyone weak, terrified of their own fragility when you stop reacting to your triggers. The people who used to control you lose their grip completely. Your irritation isn't about them, it's information about you. And the intensity of your reaction tells you exactly how deep that thing is buried. The untouchable person doesn't get hijacked by their triggers. They read them. They use them. They turn the mirror inward instead of pointing it outward. Most people spend their whole lives furious at reflections. While they're fighting everyone around them, you're learning everything about yourself. That's not the same game, that's not even the same level. Drop this in the comments. My triggers are my teachers. Bigger the mask, the bigger the shadow, the stronger the persona, the curated identity, the perfect image, the I have it together front. The more pressurized the shadow beneath it becomes. This is why high-performing, image-conscious people don't collapse less. They collapse more, And when they go completely. Drop the mask and the right people will chase the real you harder than they ever chased the performance. The saint with the hidden vice, the stoic who snaps, the success story with the secret addiction, the most untouchable image built on the most volatile foundation. Jung's law, every mask casts a shadow the exact shape of what it's hiding. The more airtight your image, the more explosive the material you've buried to maintain it. While they're perfecting the performance, the pressure is building underneath. While you're integrating what's real, you're becoming something they can never fake, genuinely untouchable from the inside out. Drop this in the comments. I choose truth over image. Prakrigate. Here's the part that changes everything. The shadow isn't malevolent. It's not chaos for chaos's sake. It's not the enemy. It's the part of you that's been locked in a room for decades, and it is done waiting. It acts out not because it hates you, but because ignored things don't disappear. They escalate. They get louder. They get more creative. They will find a way to be heard whether you invite them or not. Integrate your shadow, and you become the most magnetic person in any room, because wholeness is rare. Integration is the process of sitting with what you buried. Not acting it out, not suppressing it harder, meeting it, naming it, asking it what it needs. And when you do that, something shifts permanently. The anger becomes clarity. The obsession becomes direction. The darkness becomes depth. The wound becomes the weapon. The truly untouchable person isn't someone who has no shadow. It's someone who has met their shadow and made it an ally. While they keep running from what's inside them, you're walking toward it. And that walk is the most powerful move you will ever make. Drop this in the comments. I face what I've buried. A. This is the law most people never reach. And it's the one that explains everything, every craving that makes no sense, every relationship you keep recreating, every ambition that feels hollow the moment you achieve it, every version of success that still leaves you empty. Jung's fifth law. The shadow doesn't just store what you've rejected. It stores what you've never allowed yourself to want. Beneath the anger is an unmet need for respect. Beneath the people-pleasing is a desperate hunger to be loved without conditions. Beneath the obsession with control is a person who is never allowed to feel safe. Know what you actually need, and you'll stop attracting people who exploit what you don't. Your shadow isn't just your damage, it's your compass. It's pointing loudly at everything your life has been missing. The untouchable person isn't the one who has no needs. It's the one who has been honest enough to name them and powerful enough to meet them without destroying everyone around them in the process. While they keep chasing the wrong things, you finally know what you're actually looking for. Drop this in the comments. I know what I truly need. When integration doesn't happen consciously, it happens somatically. The anxiety with no explanation. The chronic tension that won't resolve. The exhaustion that sleep doesn't touch. The immune system that fails at the worst possible moments. Jung observed this before psychosomatic medicine had a name for it. The body stores everything. The psyche refuses to process. Your shadow will find a way to be heard. Always. The only question is whether you choose the channel or let it choose for you. Master this and people will feel your stillness before you speak. That stillness is untouchable. The person who thinks they're untouchable because they feel nothing isn't touchable. They're numb. And their body is keeping the score of everything their mind refuses to acknowledge. Real untouchability isn't emotional shutdown, it's emotional mastery. Feeling everything and being governed by none of it. While they suppress and wonder why they're breaking down, you're processing and building something that cannot be shaken. Drop this in the comments. My body and mind are aligned. This is the final law, and it's the one hiding in plain sight. Every single day you narrate yourself to yourself. In your head. In the words you choose. In the stories you tell about who you are, what happened to you, and what's possible for you. And Jung's seventh law says this. The language of the shadow is always the language of the victim. The language of integration is always the language of the author. Listen to how people talk about themselves. I can't help it. That's just how I am. I always do this. People like me don't get that. Change your language and watch how differently people respond to you within days. That's not self-awareness. That's the shadow narrating. That's the buried self running its script and calling it truth. The untouchable person speaks differently. Not with toxic positivity, not with delusion, but with authorship. I noticed this pattern. I chose this. I'm learning this. This is where I'm going. Same life, different narrator, completely different destination. Words are not just expression, they are construction. Every sentence you speak about yourself is either building the untouchable version of you or reinforcing the version that stays stuck. While they keep narrating their limitations, you're writing a different story. And you're the only one holding the pen. Drop this in the comments. I am the author of my life. 7 laws. 1 truth. The shadow isn't the enemy of your ambitions. It is the source of your deepest power. If you're willing to go there, Machiavelli gave the world tactics. He taught you how to rule others, how to manage enemies, how to control the room. But Jung gave the world something Machiavelli never had. Truth, the kind that doesn't come from strategy. The kind that comes from sitting in the dark with yourself and refusing to look away, and while everyone else is performing power, reacting, defending, explaining, proving you're governing something they can't even see, your own interior. That is the only kingdom that can never be taken from you. That is the only version of untouchable that actually holds. Not untouchable because nothing reaches you. Untouchable because you've met everything inside you that could. If this opens something in you, like it, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe. Because we're just getting started. You're untouchable, now prove it.